There's nothing that can upgrade your life more than actually learning to change how you think. Today we'll be going over the top 5 negative mindset habits to break in 2020. Welcome back. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Nina and I'm a life coach that specializes in personal development. Here at this channel, we talk about everything having to do with our emotional well-being, understanding our own psychology, and living our best life possible. So if you aren't already a subscriber, please take a moment and become one. We definitely want you to stay connected. Today we're going to do 3 important things. The first thing is we're going to go over the top 5 negative thought patterns or mindset habits that we could be holding that are really setting us back in our life. The second thing is I'm going to offer you an exercise in self-therapy and self-awareness to kind of get to the bottom of these mindset issues we're having. And thirdly, I'm going to offer you some very specific and actionable steps to really start to change that mindset. We want to really start fresh in 2020, and this is the perfect way to start. So let's start by talking about some of those negative mindset habits that we might be holding. Now, the first one I see all the time, and that is called disqualifying the positive. So for example, if someone were to give us a compliment or something, we would be very quick to discount that compliment, or we would offer some evidence of why it actually isn't even true. So if someone, for example, says they really like what you are wearing, you might be quick to say, oh no, it's really cheap, I got it on sale, it's not worth anything, or oh, it used to look a lot better when I was thinner, or something negative that's going to kind of cancel out the compliment in some way. Another way we might see this is when someone is trying to offer us praise for something that they feel that we do really well. Like they may say, oh, you're so great with your kids, or, you are so good at your job. And you respond by saying, well, I mean, anybody can do that. It's really, really easy. It's no big deal. So you're really always trying to disqualify any positive feedback that you are getting from someone else. So what we need to start doing is really to notice and appreciate the good things that we have to offer to this world, big and small. So if, that means that we do have a great shirt on, that's wonderful. Take that compliment. If someone is saying that you're a great friend or a great housekeeper, or you're great with your job, or whatever it is, you're great with your kids, take that compliment for what it's worth. Because if someone is taking the time to tell you something that they really admire about you, then, that is something that you have to regard as true. They see that as being a positive quality for you. So you need to start seeing the positive qualities within yourself as well. So try not to negate the positive all the time. We do have a negativity bias as human beings. That's why, again, I always say that you can have 1,000 compliments and you can have one tiny little criticism, and you will spend the entire week thinking about that tiny little criticism because of that negativity bias. So we want to stop disqualifying the positive feedback we are getting from people and start really celebrating these things within ourselves. Notice the good within ourselves and really, talk ourselves up instead of really being the one that is dragging ourselves down. So we want to really look at this in 2020. Now, the second mindset habit is something that I struggled with for so many years of my life. So if it is something that you are struggling with, I greatly sympathize. And that is the negative thinking patterns of catastrophizing or fortune telling and coming up with a worst case scenario and overreacting. Now, in any one of these circumstances, we are coming up with the absolute worst possible case scenario, and we are making ourselves sick with worry, thinking that is what is actually going to happen in reality. So we are going to start to make this seem like this is the blueprint of our life. This is what is really going to come into fruition, and we're going to have an emotional reaction like that is actually the case. So of course, it's going to bring about a lot of stress and anxiety and tension for us. So we are just imagining all these crazy scenarios, and they are snowballing and getting bigger and bigger and more terrifying. And it makes it seem like problems are way bigger than they are, and that we are not going to be able to handle them. So we have to remember, first of all, that all fear comes from the fact or stems from the fact that we don't believe that we are going to be able to handle what happens. So first of all, we need to stop assuming the worst. So that is definitely just a habit, and that's why we want to break it. And the second thing is we have to remember that no matter what does happen, we will be able to get through it somehow. We've been able to get through every other thing that's ever happened to us, and we will be able to get through anything that does happen to us in the future. So we just need to get into the practice of being present in the here and now, not thinking about the future or ruminating over the past, but really being present in the moment now and being realistic and honest with ourselves about what is actually happening. So we want to assess the situation really much more realistically than our catastrophizing and our fortune telling and our overreacting mind really wants us to do. The third mindset habit we need to break is black and white thinking. Now, nothing in life is black and white. We really live within the grays. So if we are limiting ourselves to the always and the nevers, we're going to have a lot of resistance in this world because very few things are clean cut. We need to look at each situation individually for what it is and have a decision or a reaction based on that specific situation. We can't box ourselves in by saying, this is always going to be the case if this happens, and this will never be something I would consider because of the same reason. So we want to start to adopt a much more open-minded view about possibilities for the future and possibilities for solutions for scenarios that are happening right now. As children, we are taught in black and white, and that's actually very helpful at that time, and it's also very comforting. It's very easy when there is a definite yes or a definite no. But as we get older, we realize again, a lot of things are in the maybe category. So keeping that open mind and realizing that a lot of times we have to do critical thinking to see, if it is a yes or is a no in this particular situation. The fourth mindset is the I'll be happy when mindset. Now in this mindset, we are telling ourselves that we have some kind of hoop that we need to jump through before we're going to allow ourselves to feel happy. So we are telling ourselves that a particular event needs to happen, or that we need to achieve something specific, or we need to get to a different time period in our life. So it could be something as simple as I will be happy when this day is over to I will be happy when I have a baby. But we are never allowing ourselves to be happy in this present moment. There's always something that we need to be doing in order to feel that happiness. Now, when we have this mindset, happiness never, ever, ever comes, because firstly, we have no guarantee that these events will take place in the first place. And secondly, the habit forces us to constantly be looking down the road. So when we actually have these achievements, if they do take place, they very rarely give us the gratification that we are looking for, and we are often very, very disappointed, so we take it a step further. So instead, we need to think about having happiness in the present moment. This is the only moment that we will ever, ever, ever have. And also, happiness is always available to us in the present moment, so why not take it? Happiness is certainly not a destination. It is a journey, and we need to start on that journey right away. And the fifth thing is questioning and doubting ourselves and letting other people influence our thoughts, decisions, and behavior. So this is very, very common. As human beings, we tend to think that other people are somehow magically more intelligent or more qualified or more experienced, and we assume that they know better than we do. So oftentimes we are looking to other people to really make decisions for us. Now, firstly, this is a problem because when we do this, we are getting information from them that is through the filter of our own thoughts, experiences, morals, values, and emotions. And also, we'll never really be happy with these decisions because they are not coming from our own selves. To live an authentic life, we need to make our own decisions based on what is truly best for us. And it is impossible, no matter how much someone else loves you, for them to know what those answers are. only we can figure that out for ourselves. Another factor is also that a lot of times we feel that the love and approval of other people is very contingent on our own actions. So we are likely to alter our actions or our beliefs or our decisions to reflect something that they would probably find more favorable than what we would authentically come up with ourselves. So I don't think I even need to tell you why this would not be ideal for our lives. It is so important that we learn to trust our gut, trust our own opinion, and value ourselves enough to really put our own desires and our own needs in front of the needs and desires of other people. This is our life, and we need to live it in a way that makes the most sense for us. So those are the 5 mindset habits that I most commonly see with my clients. And now let's talk about an exercise that we can do to kind of get to the bottom of how these mindset habits develop in the first place. So if you have a journal or a piece of paper, go ahead and grab it, because I'm going to give you a few questions that you can ask yourself. The first question is, what am I gaining by holding on to these specific mindset habits or these negative thought patterns? Now, it may seem like a silly question because you may be thinking, what am I gaining from it? I mean, nothing really. That's why we want to throw them away, which is true, but there is a reason behind it. So what are you actually gaining, or what needs are being met by holding on to these negative thought patterns? And you want to give it a lot of thought, because that's going to give you a lot of insight. And the second question is the exact reverse. What am I losing by holding on to these negative thought patterns? What is the cost of these mindset habits? The third question is, how could my life improve if I really got rid of these habits and I was able to have much more positive thinking patterns in my life? What changes could actually be made if that were the case? The fourth question is about the origin of these thought patterns. So if you can think of what in the past made you begin thinking in this way, go ahead and write that down. And you also might consider if this was something that was actually taught to you. Was this something that you saw modeled in your own home or by family or friends? So you really want to get to the bottom of where these things originated in the first place. And the fifth thing is to ask yourself if there are any actionable steps that you can think of right off the bat that would help you change these mindsets. Now, in a moment, I'm going to go over my own tips and strategies for doing that. But if there is something that you can think of right now before we get into it, go ahead and write that down. So once you've gathered all this information, it's just going to give you a lot of tools to help you actually start to make these changes and to see progress right away. So finally, let's go over the tips and strategies that I use personally and that I offer to my clients as well. And the first one is self-awareness. And with this, we just want to start to get in the habit of noticing these mindsets to begin with. So often they are there because we don't even notice that we have them. So they just kind of float with us through life, and they get worse and worse and more extreme. So we need to just acknowledge that these mindset habits are there and acknowledge to ourselves that they are destructive for us. So instead of just mindlessly going through life with these negative thought patterns, we want to kind of send signals to ourselves every time we start to engage in them. And that's going to really require a lot of self-awareness and a lot of self-analysis. So you just want to be actively thinking about what you're thinking about. The second part of this is whenever we feel that a thought pattern is emerging or coming up for us, we want to ask ourselves, is this thought pattern or is this thought helping me or hurting me? So we know if it is hurting us, that it is definitely something we need to change. And the third part of this is designing new thoughts. So we have somewhere around 60,000 thoughts every single day. So that's whole bunch of thoughts, and 90 to 95% of these thoughts are all just recycled from the day before. So we are just thinking about the same things in the same ways pretty much all the time. So once we have awareness of this, we can start to stop that and to start to design thoughts that are much more proactive and helpful in our life and much more in alignment with the goals and the life that we want to actually lead. We have to remember that our thought patterns are very hardwired, and that means that it can be difficult to change. So we want to kind of come at it from all angles. We want to think about it consciously and make all the conscious shifts that we can make. We also want to kind of attack it on a subconscious level as well. So that means really changing a lot of that negative programming. And one way I find really effective for doing this is to have affirmations that you say to yourself on a daily basis of how we want to think. We're going to repeat those thoughts to us again and again and again. And then also you can use your phone to record messages to yourself that you can listen to again over and over and over. So you can have a message that you will play to yourself whenever you start to fall back into these negative thought patterns. You want to remind yourself of how you want to think and feel instead, and you want to just listen to that again and again. You can actually listen to it when you sleep as well. You can listen to affirmations by other people as well, but I find that if you design them yourself, and also if it's in your own voice, it's something that your subconscious really responds to. So you want to really start to program your subconscious to be working on your behalf instead of working against you. Without being intentional, we can start to really entertain thoughts that are not based in reality at all. So we want to start in 2020 to really gain control of our thoughts. And remember, we have a new blank, fresh page, and we can make this decade anything we want. So let's start by really breaking these negative patterns that have held us back for so long and really starting to lead the life that we truly want to live. So I hope this video was helpful to you, and if it was, please like it and share it with someone else who may need to hear this message today. Also, again, if you aren't already a subscriber, please take a moment and become one. We definitely want you to stay connected, and I thank you so much for spending time with me today. Have an absolutely amazing new year.